He told TMZ in the Daily Mail that his family wanted answers about what might have happened in or around this home.
Okay, this is the interview with Steve Fischer. Well, we're not gonna watch the whole thing. Maybe just a couple of minutes in, and then when I come on the live on Friday or this week again, we can chop it up a little bit more. Probably by then there's gonna be more information and all. So do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get this algorithm going. So let's play the video.
And that he wasn't trying to interfere with the police investigation. He just didn't want to be left in the dark about what connections, if any, his property could have.
He's talking about the owner of the property.
And TMZ reports that the LAPD has since seized surveillance footage from the same home, cameras that could show exactly who entered or exited the property. Now, this homeowner reportedly told the outlet that he hasn't even seen the footage himself out of respect for his tenant's privacy. He also claims the police still haven't given him a copy of the warrant or told him exactly what they took. So the big question now is what exactly happened in or around that home, right? And whether the private a little bit, but now taking the time here, landlord, bring on our special guest. I'm joined by private investigator Steve Fischer, who is hired by David's former landlord. Really appreciate you taking the time here to talk about this. First off, Steve, how were you hired? How were you retained in this matter?
So originally, when when the body was originally found, I had another missing persons case going in LA of a female, and we thought that could be that individual. And so I kind of stayed with the case for a little while until she was identified, and we knew it wasn't. And I had, discovered some other things, such as when the car was towed and the photos from it being towed and whatnot. And, the owner had gotten in touch with me of the house, and I shared some things with him, and it just kind of evolved from there. But one thing, I would say is he is the owner of the house. He wasn't David's landlord. David wasn't even on the lease, part of and the owner never even knew that David was in the house. It was crazy. Actually Josh Marshall, his manager, who had leased the house.
But to be clear, David was living there, right?
Yes, he was definitely staying there. It just was not known to the owner.
Right. Okay. And by the way, I understand this is, an active investigation. There might be limited what you can share. But what exactly is he looking for in this? What exactly is this property owner?
That's a good question.
What kind of answers is he looking for?
So where really kind of evolved from was the search warrant was served, I believe, on the 17th or 18th. And it was a forced entry search warrant, meaning that nobody was home at the time. And they did not leave a copy of the warrant or of the return, the inventory list of the items that they took from the house. And it was really kind of born out of that. I was not officially retained at that time, but I helped him try to obtain that. And we told Robbery Homicide, hey, listen, no warrant was left behind. David was out on tour. Josh Marshall lives out of state, we found out. So the owner had his representative go to the house immediately after he found out about this, and there was no warrant, no return. Is there really?
Yeah, David was at the house. The guy that was on the lease, the manager, David's manager, didn't even live there. He's out the state. Like, it was a party house for what they were saying. Like, man, I can't even imagine what was going on in that house and how people were coming in and out, right? And it's like, as an artist, why would you want your house to be open for people to be coming in and out? That's weird. That's strange, right?
Really just wants to understand what of his property could have been taken and what the.
I don't know. They're keeping on showing this image right here. I don't know if this is authorities or this is the last person to move is moving the body. Could this be? I don't know. This looks kind of like maybe not, right? Probably this is the part of the investigation, but I don't know. This doesn't look like a cop. I mean the attire at the same time could be an undercover cop, right?
Status that is. And then also, this is troublesome when you learn something like this. All of a sudden you're thrown into this, and he feels absolutely horrible for Celeste's family. And he's like, if there's anything that involves, in and around my house that could help, then I want to discover that. And I'll tell you that there have been things that we've learned and we've turned right over to LAPD, but we think there's significant, things that could help.
Do you mean that there might be evidence that a crime was committed at that house?
There we go.
Not so
Good
much a
question.
crime. No, and I'll just be honest with you. We don't have any evidence that anything happened to Celeste at that house, but there's
Mm.
definitely evidence.
So okay, that's what I heard earlier. I was listening to part of this interview. Um, so what they're trying to say, man, and I said it before, right? When investigators tell you like little hints like this, saying like, but there was there's no evidence of Celeste Rivas losing her life there, or anything happening to her. It's kind of telling you that maybe that this investigation might end up going to somewhere else, or tracing it to somewhere else, right? Where maybe it is the place where really all this happened, but in the body was just transferred.
Things that could help.
Do you mean that there might be evidence that a crime was committed at that house?
Not so much a crime. No, and I'll just be honest with
Okay.
you. We don't have any evidence that anything happened to Celeste at that house,
There
but
you go.
there's definitely evidence that we've collected that helps the timeline. We now have a much better understanding of when that Tesla arrived at that final parking spot. I'll tell you, I do have surveillance from different houses in the neighborhood showing the Tesla being moved. So things like that, and I'm not even saying that LAPD didn't have that. I'm sure they did, but we wanted to make sure, and we did some work and on the upresing the footage to find out who was driving the vehicle. And there are some other items that were found at the house that weren't taken during the search warrant. And search warrants are limited, right? They can't just go take everything. It's what the judge, and we don't know how broad that search warrant.
Well, that's why they left things behind. They can't take, but everything all at once. Well,
was because we haven't seen it, and that's what we'd like to see. But there were some things that were not taken into custody of LAPD that we think are significant, and including digital media and some other things that really help nail down timeline and things like that.
And you handed that over to LAPD. There's other.
We have literally the day that we the things that we've recovered.
But it's crazy, right? That I mean, the Steve Fischer, the private investigator, found all this stuff. And he found it because it was left behind. It was left behind, and when they say left behind, not only they're saying by the cops, right, by LAPD, but also too when they moved out of the house. When they say they, I don't know who's they, right? Like, was it the manager's people? Was it David D4vd people? Who is they, right? But whoever was they did a horrible job because. They left a lot of stuff, which is good in a way because it is going to help the investigation, and it seems that it's helping the investigation, right?
We've given to LAPD within 24 hours.
Do you know who was driving that car, that Tesla?
Great
you don't have
question.
to tell me, but do you know the identity?
Yeah, as far as it going to the final, that what we believe is the final parking spot where it was towed from, yes.
Oof.
And that information's been communicated to law enforcement.
So it's been given to law enforcement. They're not going to tell us if they're confirming if that's a person or not. Robbery, homicide, the way they work is we'll take your information. We're not going to speak on it, so I don't know. But listen, it's very clear that that neighborhood is filled with surveillance cameras, and the timelines, once we learn those dates and we can see other things that were happening that were even public on Instagram and whatnot, were going on in those people's lives, it makes a lot of sense.
So let me ask you this. If you see when the car was parked there, have you seen anything to indicate that Celeste's body was transferred into that car after the car was parked there? Or in other words, do you believe that her body was in that car the minute it was parked in the location it was ultimately towed from?
So I'll say I have no evidence of a body being transferred before or after. There's no evidence of that at all. What I will say,
they haven't seen. There's no. That's crazy. So I mean, there's no evidence of the body being. So how did the body get in there?
When it was moved to that position, it was already like that. So that car had not been used in a very long time. It was super dirty, caked on dirt. I'll tell you, this was in late July. So it's bizarre because
late July, they found the body in September, right? Wow, man. This, so she was already unalive, man, since July, or maybe even more. If they're saying that the body was decomposed.
We also got media that the car was used a lot. David even spoke about it
It
in the
looked all
Instagram
messed
videos.
up.
He took it to a detail shop and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the very beginning of the year, that car, something happens, and that car's doesn't show up anymore. It's not used. It seems to disappear. And then that red Tesla learned, which we didn't know until the search warrant was served, that there's a red Tesla in the garage.
Come on, man. And David didn't know. I mean, you have a Tesla and then you just don't care. You're just like, whatever. Like, I mean, I know the guy, probably has a lot of money and all, but at the same time, it's like, come on.
Which I can tell you was leased on February 1st.
Yeah, let me just narrow down here. Do you have the precise date of when that car, the one with the Tesla, with Celeste body inside, when it was left there? Do you know the specific date of when it was left in Hollywood Hills?
I believe so. I believe it. July, late July, very late July.
So one thing that we've heard, and this is something we've talked about, is the LAPD has seized footage from the rental property, multiple security cameras around the property. There are even reports of a smashed ring camera on the ground. And according to TMZ, police seized all the footage from multiple security cameras at the house last month when they executed the search warrant. TMZ described that footage as a, quote, potential gold mine for investigators. Oh. And the question becomes, did you see anyone coming into or leaving that property after the Tesla was there? So after the Tesla with Celeste body inside is there, can you tell us you saw people coming in and out of that property before the search warrant?
No, not from the time that the Tesla was left. So from the time the Tesla was left there, he literally immediately started the tour. There was a tour bus that was leased, and I'll tell you that Tesla was moved, and literally a bus departed for tour.
Okay. You talked about things that might have been taken from the house.
So the guy wasn't on tour already. He, like I said, literally left right after that whoever person was, the last person that they moved the car, right after that, he left on a bus.
He literally immediately started the tour. There was a tour bus that was leased, and I'll tell you that Tesla was moved, and literally a bus departed for tour.
Okay. Wow. You talked about things that might have been taken from the house, things that you handed over to LAPD. Is there anything you can share with us about what that information may be?
One thing that you just brought up, and I guess which TMZ reported on, the security system. The house has got a very sophisticated security system, not just with cameras, but with sensors and all types of things. It all records to a DVR. And for privacy reasons, the owner, when he leased the house, said, this is the system that's in the house, and you can use whatever functions you want on it. That's not something that then the owner could access. So we don't know if the cameras were enabled or not enabled, but if they were, it wouldn't just be cameras. It would be, we'd know anytime anybody came and went from the house, anytime anybody opened a window, everything, if they kept it like it was. But we don't know. LAPD came in and took that whole DVR. They took the entire system, which you would expect. And I've talked to the security company that installed the system, and they've told me, how it was set up. We think it was probably running because there's limited alerts that the security guy can see, which is stuff like if there's a major failure. And there was a low power failure warning that triggered right when they were executing the search warrant. And I think that's when they unplugged the system. So there's reason to believe that the system was running. Whether the cameras were covered or not, I don't know. I can tell you that some of the smoke sensors in the house were covered, and that's probably because maybe I don't know what they were doing in the house. So the cameras might have been covered as well.
During the course of your investigation so far, have you learned more information about Celeste and David, perhaps their connection, anything we should be thinking about that hasn't been publicly reported? Is your investigation also into them as well?
Sure. Yeah. And one of the reasons that we've kind of come public with what I'm doing is because I have a little bit different method of working than a lot of private investigators and then what people think is the proper way of doing it. I believe in this digital age, and when, especially the younger generation, when they're on places like Discord and you don't even know their real identities, I put myself out there, and those people do come to me, and a tremendous amount of people have come to me, and I've learned a lot. Now, listen, a lot of it's circumstantial, right? But there are people that are directly in his orbit, and there are people that have photos and videos, and we've gotten a lot of photos and videos from inside the home itself. So you can put people at certain dates and times at the house, and there's a lot of them. It's in the thousands.
Wow.
Do you know if Celeste was ever at that property?
So, what we recovered, we don't have any of her at that property. We have pictures of her and that were taken by David, we assume, because it's not on a camera phone, but these photos are on a regular camera at different locations. And it really makes me think
This is the property right here. This picture right here was taken at the property I was telling you guys earlier. That the internet started doing like research, and they found actually the whole property, and they found this piece. This is in the restroom. This is like the 3-piece artwork, and man, the internet is all crazy.
It's likely she had another place she was staying. I can tell you that there was a lot of time spent towards downtown LA, and I'll say the last photo that we have of Celeste is January 2nd, 2025.
Okay, now that's significant, because we were wondering when, she was last seen alive. There was that surveillance footage of her seemingly running away from her neighborhood.
That was
September of 24, I believe. So we didn't have anything. We were like, where was this girl in 2025? But we do have a photo of her on July 2nd, early in the morning, July 2nd, 2025.
Has anyone, and just to be clear, you don't know more information about when she died, right?
No. Okay. I don't have any information of how she died or when exactly she died. Listen, investigations are always moving, and right now
she was a little girl,
I tend to believe it happened a long time ago, and I think January, February, things changed. I mean, you can see it in the photos and everything. And I also think when I first started looking at this case, I'm very much an Occam's razor type of person, where I think things are a lot easier than people try to make them sometimes, especially online, into these big things. And I thought this was going to be a tragic overdose, which it very well still could be. And they made a bad decision because they didn't want to expose a potential relationship and put her in this Tesla, and then maybe he thought he could get somebody to get rid of that car, and they were just like, no, I'm not doing it, and just got left there. But I will say this, there are some things that and I'm talking,
if that happened, man, probably whoever backed down probably right now is like, man, good thing I did not move that
in physical evidence that was at that house that is there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her, and it's left there. But I will say this, there are some things that and I'm talking physical evidence that was at that house that is there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her, and it's scary, sadistic stuff. And that's why we're trying to learn more about that. I wish I could say more, but for obvious reasons I can't. But it doesn't have to do with how she died, but maybe how they were planning on.
This is insane. So they had other plans on how to get rid of the body, man. So, but once again, man, when they're saying they, so it means more than one person, and you wonder who's they.
Ultimately getting rid of her, and how maybe that Tesla was just a holding spot at the time, and things just, their timing was just off as far as getting this done. But there's a few things that were just like, will blow your mind.
Has anyone from David's team, management, legal, anybody reached out to you or your client?
I know that my client's been in touch with his manager, but only for the purpose of the lease, because they did ask to terminate the lease. And I believe the other manager that technically was the owner of the red Tesla, I think was in touch with him because they needed access to the house to get that vehicle and stuff out. Because that's another thing that they could be key in this, is that there's only one key to that house, and who had that, and who had access to it, and who was in it. Because we also have evidence that while David was on tour at the time between the Tesla being found and the search warrant being served, David was on tour, but somebody was in that house. And there was actually a report made, not with police, but that homeowner association has a robust private security company, and we've gotten videos from them and reports. And so who had that key is probably the same person that, had access to the Tesla.
Do you know who that person is, and do you believe that is the person that moved the Tesla?
Oh man! So there was only one key to get in and out of that house, and there was only one person that had the key to the Tesla. So right now he asked, "Do you know who was that person that had the key or has the key?"
So I believe I definitely know who moved that Tesla on that late July before they went on tour. I can't say who the person, and I don't mean I can't say for. I mean, but I don't know who exactly was in that house because it's just a report, but there's video, but you can't make a person out. But somebody was in the house, and being that there's only one key, it's like, okay, who had access at that time? So is it the same person that moved the Tesla? Was another last part of the plan about to go in motion as far as getting rid of her body? I don't know.
Now, we heard this week from LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman, and he actually addressed this case directly when a TMZ reporter caught up with him outside the DA's office. And regarding the status of the case, he said, quote, "It is currently under investigation. We don't discuss suspects or the points in a continuing investigation. When and if that case is presented to the DA's office and we make a decision on it, I'll make sure you're one of the first to know. A case has not been presented to our office for filing consideration." And just to underline that, a spokesperson for the DA's office confirmed to Complex that, no case has been presented for filing consideration. The LAPD also told the outlet that the county medical examiner still hasn't determined a cause or manner of death, saying,
maybe because they haven't found the cause of death.
It remains unclear whether there is any criminal culpability beyond the concealment of
This
her
thing's
body.
taking
Now,
a
Steve, you
long
just
time.
told us a lot of information here. Are you surprised that we don't have a confirmed suspect from law enforcement or a person of interest or even an arrest at this point? Or can you say from what you're seeing, that makes sense, but Jesse, maybe be on the lookout for something soon?
Yeah, I would say, Jesse, that makes sense, but maybe be on the lookout for something soon. I've seen this in a lot of cases. It tells me, listen, I don't have any inside information on this. I'm just saying, from my opinion, that this means that during the examination, the autopsy examination, there was nothing very obvious, such as a crushed skull, any bullet holes, anything like that. So they're waiting on toxicology to come back to make that final determination. Now, is the medical examiner in contact with the detectives in between this time? Are they? Absolutely. Do they have a preliminary determination? I'm sure they do. I think the DA's office is working side by side with the detectives and telling them, this is what we need for these charges. This is what we would need for these charges. Can you get it or not get it? Listen, a crime 100% happened here. At minimum, it's the concealment of a body, right? So we know somebody did that. Hopefully it's not, a mutilation. Hopefully those initial reports were wrong about her being dismembered. But one thing I have to say, even though I talked about how we found some things that could have meant they had a really twisted plan in place to get rid of her, it never went in motion. So you can't charge somebody for a crime that they may have thought about doing. So we may never know more about that.
So, Steve, before I let you go, do you have any indication about where David is right now?
I don't. I have no idea. And it's kind of bizarre because his group has stayed so silent. What's left of his group, I guess. And I'm not even sure the conversations that the owner did have with.
Well, his people, his friends or whatever, never talk. They never seen anybody. Usually you see people come out and especially when it's, they can get, people can get clout. Usually they come out talking about, I knew him or we did this. We there was a few live streamers that came out and they talked about, they're being friends at first and I don't think he did it. And then later on they just backed off, right? But it's weird. It's weird. Everybody keeps and keeps on being quiet.
His management in breaking that lease. I'm not even 100% sure his management knows at this time where he's at. I think his attorney might be the only one, and his parents.
Steve Fischer, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for providing a little bit more insight into what's going on right now.
Thanks for having me on.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
Go ahead and go. You can go check out the whole video at Law and Crime Network and YouTube. Shout out to them and give them a like over here. Gotta show them love too, because they've been covering the case for a while, man. So yeah, that's it right there. That's it. This is the video that I wanted to show you guys, and they know who the last person that moved the Tesla is. So It doesn't mean that that person did it. They just, because he just moved the car, right? He's not, he's not seen doing other things that other than moving the car. For what we know, they could have told him, hey, here I'm gonna give you the $20. Can you move this car? I don't know. I'm just making up shit, but and at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they found that items, articles, whatever, items or things right there that for what it seemed that they were gonna use um to get rid of the body. I guess it was kind of like another plan. I'm not sure, but it is very, very concerning. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, man. I appreciate you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot. And if you're watching the replay, drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this whole case. Have you been following? Have you been following it? Have you heard anything new? And at the same time, maybe you're like, oh man, I don't want to drop a comment. Do me a favor and drop your favorite emoji. It helps. It helps with the algorithm, and that's right now one thing that I want to do is try to get back with the algorithm. So all you guys that are subscribed, you guys can be getting the notification because some of you are not getting notified. But much love and respect. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. All right, peace.